He was the man she mocked every day for his red MAGA hat, dismissing him as irrelevant and outdated. But when her career was on the verge of collapse, he quietly stepped in to save her, leaving her stunned by a truth she never saw coming. Comments below, where are you watching from? And if you like and love our story, kindly subscribe our channel, Life Inspirational and Motivational Tales that explore themes of love, unity, and patriotism. Stay with us always for interesting stories. Thanks. Let's start the story. The office buzzed with the usual energy of a weekday morning. Phones rang incessantly, keyboards clattered, and the faint hum of conversations filled the air. Laura Bennett, impeccably dressed in a tailored blazer and heels, strode through the corridors of Summit Tech like she owned the place. In her late 30s, Laura was known for her sharp wit, undeniable ambition, and, unfortunately, her quick judgments. Her team respected her for her work ethic, but often felt the sting of her condescending remarks. On most days, Laura didn't have time for pleasantries, but there was one man she never failed to notice: James Carter. The older man, always dressed simply in slacks and a button-down shirt, had a quiet air about him. But it wasn't his demeanor that caught Laura's attention. It was the bright red MAGA hat he wore during his occasional visits to the office. "Here comes Mr. Time Traveler," she muttered to a colleague as James entered the break room one morning, his hat standing out like a beacon. Her colleague shifted uncomfortably, offering a weak chuckle before returning to their coffee. Laura's remarks about James had become so routine that they barely drew a reaction anymore. "Seriously, why is he even here?" Laura added, her voice dripping with disdain. "Isn't there a rally somewhere he should be at?" James, overhearing the comment as he poured his coffee, merely smiled politely and nodded in her direction. "Good morning, Laura," he said calmly, before heading back to his usual spot by the window. To Laura, James was an enigma. He wasn't listed in the employee directory, didn't attend major meetings, and seemed to wander the office aimlessly. She assumed he was a consultant or someone brought in to observe operations. To her, his hat symbolized everything she detested. Dismissing him felt justified, almost like a moral obligation. What Laura didn't know, and what the rest of the staff had no reason to suspect, was that James wasn't just a visitor. He was the silent co-founder of Summit Tech, a man who preferred to stay in the background and observe the company he had built from the ground up. James believed in letting actions speak louder than titles and avoided drawing attention to his position. That morning, as Laura fired off another email, her phone buzzed with an urgent message from her supervisor. "Conference room. Now." The terse message sent a chill through her. Within minutes, Laura found herself sitting across from senior executives, their expressions grim. "It's come to our attention that a critical error in your department has jeopardized one of our biggest client accounts," her supervisor said coldly. "If this isn't resolved immediately, it could cost us the contract and possibly your position." "Huh?" Laura's heart raced. She had no idea what they were talking about. What mistake? How had it gone unnoticed? As the weight of their words sank in, panic set in. This was her dream job, the career she had worked tirelessly to build, and now it all hung by a thread. Leaving the conference room, Laura felt the stares of her colleagues as she marched back to her desk, her confident demeanor shattered. She buried her face in her hands, struggling to think of a solution. For the first time in years, Laura Bennett felt powerless. Across the office, James noticed Laura's change in posture and the tension etched across her face. He sipped his coffee quietly, his expression unreadable, but his mind was already turning over possibilities. He had seen this kind of pressure before, had faced it himself in the early days of building Summit Tech. While Laura's sharp tongue and judgmental nature had never gone unnoticed, James knew better than to hold grudges. If there was one thing his years of experience had taught him, it was that people sometimes needed a second chance to learn the right lessons. The office atmosphere grew heavier as the days passed. Laura worked tirelessly, poring over data files and reports, searching desperately for the root of the issue. Her polished confidence, once her armor, began to crack under the pressure. Every unsuccessful attempt felt like another nail in the coffin of her career. She could sense the unease among her team, the sidelong glances and hushed whispers that hinted at her precarious position. "He's in over her head this time," Laura overheard a colleague say. The words stung, confirming her worst fears. Laura clenched her jaw, refusing to show weakness, but inside, her anxiety gnawed at her relentlessly. James observed Laura's struggles without judgment, noting her furrowed brow and restless pacing. He logged into the system from his remote access. His expertise, developed over years of troubleshooting crises, allowed him to identify the root cause of the error quickly. With steady hands and a clear mind, James fixed the issue, restoring the client's account to perfect order. The next morning, Laura arrived at work, bracing herself for another grueling day. When she opened her email, she froze. The client's account was fully operational, no glitches, no errors. Everything was running smoothly. "How?" she whispered to herself, scanning the logs. There was no record of who had made the changes, only that the issue had been resolved overnight. As the team meeting, senior management praised Laura for her swift action and leadership, restoring their confidence in her. Laura accepted the praise with a forced smile, feeling a pang of guilt. She had no idea who had fixed the problem, but whoever it was had saved her career. The quarterly meeting later that week, an executive casually revealed the truth. "We owe a special thanks to James Carter for stepping in and resolving last week's issue. For those who don't know, James isn't just a consultant. He's the co-founder of Summit Tech." The room fell silent, then erupted into applause. Laura sat frozen, her mind racing. James? The man she'd dismissed as insignificant, whose hat she ridiculed daily, was the silent co-founder of the company and her savior. She turned to look at James, who smiled politely, giving a small wave of acknowledgement. There was no trace of smugness or need for validation. To him, this revelation meant nothing, but to Laura, it meant everything. The weight of her past remarks hit her like a tidal wave. She recalled every mocking word, every condescending glance. James had every reason to let her fail, but instead, he had chosen to help her without seeking recognition. She saw that Riley was now working to stop her. After the meeting, Laura approached James's office, her heart pounding. She knocked softly, clutching a small gift bag and a handwritten note. When James opened the door, his calm expression put her at ease. "James," she began, her voice trembling, "I owe you an apology. I judged you unfairly, mocked you, and yet you helped me when I needed it most. I can never thank you enough." James smiled warmly. "Laura, we all make mistakes. What matters is that we learn from them." Alexis looked up. His words, spoken without bitterness, struck a chord in Laura. From that day forward, she worked to treat everyone with respect and kindness, inspired by James's humility and grace. She shared her experience openly with her colleagues, encouraging them to look beyond appearances and focus on character. Months later, at a company event, Laura publicly acknowledged James's impact on her life. "James taught me that kindness and humility can change lives. His actions reminded me to lead with empathy, not judgment." The applause that followed was thunderous, and Laura felt a quiet sense of peace. James had not only saved her job, but had transformed her perspective. As she reflected on their journey, she realized that his red hat was no longer a symbol of division. It was a reminder of the power of forgiveness and the importance of seeing humanity in everyone. Have you ever been judged unfairly or experienced a moment where someone's unexpected kindness changed your life? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's start a conversation about forgiveness, growth, and the power of second chances. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us of the kindness we all need in the world.